Welcome, the anointed ones. Do not touch what heaven has marked, for what you mock today might be the very thing you're forced to respect tomorrow. Chosen ones, let's be real. There's something almost comical about the way entire communities can rally together like it's a group project, only to fail spectacularly. You'd think they were auditioning for a reality TV show the way they coordinated attacks, whispered campaigns, and endless gossip sessions against you. But here's the fact. History shows us that every community that rises in unison against a single individual who carries divine favor always ends up exposing their own pettiness, not the supposed flaws of the one they're after. From Joseph in the pit to prophets mocked in their own hometowns, the pattern has never changed. And now, that same pattern is unfolding in front of their eyes with you. They threw everything at you: rejection, slander, betrayal, isolation, yet somehow you're still standing. Not just standing, but rising higher, shining brighter, and looking more untouchable than ever. The irony? Their attacks only made heaven show off with your life. What they meant as a grave has become a platform. What they meant as humiliation has turned into public proof that you're favored beyond measure. So sit tight, because in this message, we're not just going to talk about the fact that you're favored. We're going to dissect why their collective hatred was never a sign of your failure, but the clearest evidence of your divine election. And by the time we're done, you'll understand why their attacks weren't just noise. They were announcements that you are the one heaven had its eyes on all along. Number 1. Their attacks became your resume. The very stones they threw became the receipts of your endurance. That's the truth that people often miss when they see a chosen one constantly under fire. The community thought that their insults, their rumors, their betrayal, and their organized campaigns to destroy you would somehow reduce you to nothing. They thought your silence, your isolation, or your lack of support from others meant they had won. But what they didn't realize is that every attack became a documented proof of your survival. You don't have to brag about your strength. Your scars already do the talking. Think about it. When someone is truly weak, a little bit of pressure makes them fold. But when someone is chosen, the very pressure that should break them becomes the evidence that they were built differently. That's exactly what happened with you. Each attempt to crush you only ended up exposing the fact that you could take hits no ordinary person could take. Their attacks turned into your resume, a record of trials that should have buried you but instead revealed your resilience. Now, when people look at your life, they don't just see someone who made it. They see someone who made it against all odds. That's why your enemies are confused. They can't figure out why their best efforts to tear you down only left you standing taller. They can't wrap their minds around how you survived storms that would have drowned anyone else. They can't understand why every blow you took ended up becoming a stepping stone for something greater. What they planned as humiliation turned into undeniable proof that you were protected and preserved for something far beyond their reach. This is what divine favor looks like in action. It doesn't erase the attacks. It doesn't prevent people from trying you, but it makes sure every single attempt works in your favor. They thought they were writing your obituary, but what they were really doing was signing testimonies with their own hands. Their hatred documented your survival better than any friend could have testified. Now, when others look at you, they don't just see a survivor. They see someone whose very life proves that no matter what's thrown at them, nothing can erase the mark of divine election. The attacks backfired because in trying to bury you, they unknowingly built the evidence that you are exactly who heaven said you are. Number 2. They're realizing favor isn't fair. They're realizing favor isn't fair. That's the part that's driving them mad. They did everything right according to their standards, kissed up to the right people, built their cliques, played politics, and still ended up overlooked. Meanwhile, you were targeted, mocked, and pushed aside, yet blessings keep following you like they're on autopilot. It doesn't add up for them because they've been taught that effort, numbers, or influence should guarantee results. What they didn't account for is the hand of God on a life, that unseen force that overrides all their calculations. The community that attacked you thought the power was in their majority. They believed if enough people agreed on your downfall, That was the end of your story. But no matter how much they conspired, they couldn't stop doors from opening in your life. They couldn't stop opportunities from landing in your lap that they themselves had been chasing for years. And it eats at them because they realize favor breaks every rule of fairness they've built their pride on. Favor isn't about who deserves it the most or who has the loudest supporters. Favor is about divine selection, and that's what they're forced to come to terms with. They don't hate you because you failed. They hate you because you're succeeding in ways that make no sense to them. You didn't follow their formula, yet you got results they could never touch. And here's the part that burns them the most. They can't do anything to stop it. They can gossip, they can scheme, they can throw shade, but they cannot block what was sealed over your life. Their frustration is the loudest confirmation that you are favored. If your rise was fair, they'd be able to explain it away. They'd be able to point to connections, shortcuts, or compromises. But the fact that they can't explain it makes it undeniable. It forces them to accept that something higher is working in your favor. That's why their bitterness grows every time you win, because in their eyes, you weren't supposed to. You weren't supposed to have that resilience, that opportunity, that breakthrough. And yet, here you are, proving that favor doesn't follow human logic. It follows divine will. And when heaven decides you're chosen, no community vote can overrule it. Number 3. They wanted you isolated, but heaven broadcasted you. They wanted you isolated, but heaven broadcasted you. That's the irony of the whole thing. Their plan was simple: cut you off, discredit you, and make sure nobody gave you a platform. They thought if they could silence your voice in the community, your influence would shrink into nothing. They wanted people to forget you, to dismiss you, to see you as irrelevant. But instead of shrinking, your presence grew louder in places they couldn't reach or control. The very effort to bury your name became the reason people outside their circle started paying attention to you. They underestimated how divine exposure works. Human beings think power comes from visibility in their little groups, but heaven doesn't play by their rules. When they tried to blackball you, they ended up making you more noticeable. Their gossip carried your name further than your own voice could have at the time. People who never cared to know you suddenly became curious because of how much your enemies obsessed over you. They handed you free publicity, thinking they were destroying your image, when in reality, they were making it impossible for you to be ignored. The truth is, isolation has always been one of the chosen one's biggest stages. Because when you're cut off from everyone, God becomes your main promoter. You don't need clicks, networks, or constant approval when heaven itself is writing your story. That's why your name showed up in conversations where you weren't present. That's why opportunities started reaching for you, even when you weren't campaigning for them. The same voices that tried to erase you ended up echoing your name so loudly that people who actually mattered couldn't help but notice. And now they're frustrated. They look around and wonder how someone they deliberately excluded is still being included on levels they can't touch. They can't understand why you, the one they labeled unworthy, are suddenly shining brighter than those they celebrated. But this is how divine justice works. When people conspire to silence you, God amplifies you. Their attempts to erase you only confirmed how important your presence really is. You didn't need their stage because heaven gave you one that made theirs look small. Their rejection wasn't the end of your influence, it was the beginning of your broadcast. Number 4. They're forced to witness the reverse harvest. They're forced to witness the reverse harvest. The same people who spent years planting seeds of slander, envy, and curses against you are now sitting front row as their own words come back to choke them. What they sowed in secret is now sprouting in public, and they can't hide it. They thought they could dig pits for you and somehow walk away clean, but the law of heaven never misses. Whatever a person plants is exactly what they'll reap. And the irony is painful for them. Every evil seed they aimed at your soil is now growing wild in theirs. When they gossiped about you, they thought the story would stick. Instead, those lies became the reason people no longer trust their word. When they tried to stir up envy against you, they ended up exposing the poverty of their own spirit, because envy always reveals lack. When they cursed you, they didn't realize curses don't land on ground that's already blessed. Those words boomeranged and returned to sender, leaving them wrestling with the very destruction they tried to send your way. Meanwhile, your soil is flourishing. Everything they said would never grow for you is blossoming in plain view. You're thriving, not because you fought them back on their level, but because heaven himself watered your soil. The divine hand they denied has been nurturing you, producing fruit that no one can deny. The more they tried to strip you bare, the more abundance sprang up around you. And now, the contrast between their barren harvest and your overflowing one is undeniable. The embarrassment is sharp for them because it proves that they were never in control. They were convinced their collective effort could ruin you, but all it really did was ruin their own credibility. People can now see clearly who was blessed and who was bitter. Exposure has flipped the tables. Where they once tried to paint you as unworthy, their own actions have revealed their corruption. And the rejection they're experiencing isn't just social, it's spiritual. They shut you out, but now they're the ones being shut out of divine favor. That's the reverse harvest in motion. They're not just watching you survive, they're watching you thrive, while simultaneously choking on the fruit of their own malice. And that sight alone is a judgment they can't escape. Number 5. You were the test they failed. You were the test they failed. Your presence among them wasn't accidental, it was divinely orchestrated. God placed you right in their midst, not only to grow you, but to reveal them. The way they treated you was never just about social interactions, family ties, or community behavior. It was a spiritual exam. Every word they spoke against you, every scheme they plotted, every act of rejection was part of their test paper. And while they thought they were simply putting you in your place, what they were really doing was grading themselves. And most of them didn't even realize they were being watched. Chosen ones are walking measuring rods. Your very existence exposes hearts. When people interact with you, their true nature surfaces: jealousy, compassion, envy, integrity, love, or cruelty. You didn't ask to be the test, but you became it the moment you carried the mark of divine favor. And sadly, many of them failed miserably. Instead of choosing kindness, they chose cruelty. Instead of honoring, they dishonored. Instead of protecting, they betrayed. And all the while, heaven was recording the answers they thought no one would ever check. Now the results are in, and the consequences are undeniable. Some of them are facing doors that will not open, relationships that are crumbling, opportunities slipping away, and peace that refuses to return. It's not random bad luck. It's the backlash of failing the test they were given when you were placed among them. They had the chance to recognize, to nurture, to stand with someone chosen, but instead they mocked and opposed. They marked their own report card with failing grades, and life is now handing them back the results. And here's the part that stings the most for them. You were the easiest test they could have passed. It didn't require a degree, wealth, or status. All it required was humility, love, and respect. Yet because of pride, envy, and arrogance, they threw it all away. Now they're realizing too late that mistreating a chosen one isn't just bad behavior, it's failing the highest exam of character and spirit. And once that test is failed, the consequences echo far beyond the classroom of community life. They reverberate into their destiny. You weren't their victim, you were their final exam, and they flunked it. Number 6. Their weapons became free advertising for your destiny. Their weapons became free advertising for your destiny. That's the irony that keeps them restless at night. Every time they tried to drag your name through the mud, they ended up making you the topic of discussion. They thought their defamation campaigns would silence you, but instead they handed you free publicity. The more they slandered, the more people got curious about who you really were. Their obsession with discrediting you made it impossible for others not to notice you. In trying to bury you, they became your unintentional promoters. This is how divine setups work. What your enemies meant as destruction became marketing for your calling. They spent time and energy spreading lies, yet all they did was spread your presence. People who may never have heard your name otherwise were suddenly introduced to you through the noise of your critics. And when those people finally looked closer, the truth stood taller than the gossip. Instead of being convinced by the lies, many saw the strength, resilience, and authenticity in you that the attackers tried to hide. The weapons they forged actually highlighted what heaven placed inside you. The more they fought you, the more they revealed that you were worth fighting. Think about it. No one invests so much effort in someone who doesn't matter. Their obsession was the loudest announcement that you carry something rare, something valuable, something they couldn't replicate. They wanted to bury you in shame, but they ended up building anticipation around your name. They thought they were writing you off. In reality, they were writing your introduction. And here's where it gets even better. Because they didn't mean to help you, they can't take credit for your rise. They can't say they endorsed you, supported you, or lifted you. Their fingerprints are only on the attacks, and yet those very attacks worked in your favor. That's why it stings so badly for them. They accidentally played a role in the very success they tried to prevent. Now, every time they see you advancing, they're reminded that their own hatred gave you exposure they could never undo. Their weapons backfired, turning into megaphones for your destiny. What they launched as destruction ended up being the announcement that heaven had chosen you all along. Number 7. They can't fathom why their majority lost to your minority. They can't fathom why their majority lost to your minority. In their minds, numbers equal power. They had the crowd, the connections, the influence, and the mob energy. They believed that if enough voices spoke against you, it would erase you. If enough hands pushed, you would fall. If enough doors shut, you would never rise. To them, it was simple math. Many against one meant victory. But what they never understood is that heaven doesn't operate on arithmetic. It operates on authority. And when authority is on your side, no number of enemies can outweigh it. That's why their majority crumbled. They underestimated the weight of divine backing. It's not about how many people speak against you. It's about who is speaking for you. You didn't need a crowd to defend you because the one who called you already sealed your victory. They thought their mob could silence your voice, but your voice was never powered by them in the first place. They thought their influence could choke your opportunities, but your opportunities were never dependent on their networks. What they didn't realize is that the spirit always outweighs the flesh. And now, they're confused. They don't understand how their strategies fell flat, how their alliances dissolved, and how their overwhelming numbers still left them empty-handed. They can't process how one person standing seemingly alone still ended up standing taller than all of them combined. But the truth is, their numbers were never as powerful as they believed. A mob without righteousness is just noise. Connections without divine approval are just temporary. Influence without integrity collapses under its own weight. That's why they lost, even with the odds stacked in their favor. What they're realizing is that battles of destiny are never decided by majority votes. Heaven doesn't take polls. Heaven doesn't count hands raised against you. Heaven weighs hearts, motives, and spirit. And when the scale tips, it always favors the chosen. That's why your minority wasn't really a minority at all. It was backed by the fullness of divine authority. They outnumbered you in the flesh, but you outweighed them in the spirit. And that imbalance is why their majority was doomed from the start. Their loss wasn't just unexpected, it was inevitable. Number 8. You exposed the poverty of their spirit. You exposed the poverty of their spirit. Your elevation didn't just prove that you were strong, it revealed how empty they really were. Because think about it, it took a whole group of people with all their energy, whispers, schemes, and collective plotting, just to try to bring down one person, you. That alone was proof that their spirits were bankrupt. Spiritually rich people don't spend their lives obsessing over the downfall of someone else. People who carry true strength don't need alliances to crush an individual. The fact that they required numbers, manipulation, and constant scheming against you only highlighted the void inside them. Your rise forced that emptiness into the open. While they were busy calculating how to keep you small, you kept expanding without their permission. While they invested in gossip, you invested in growth. While they tore you down with their mouths, you built yourself up with resilience. That contrast created a spotlight they couldn't escape. On one side stood your strength, your consistency, your refusal to fold. On the other side stood their fragility, their envy, and their inability to thrive without opposition. Suddenly, people could see it clearly. One person with divine favor outweighed an entire crowd with empty spirits. This is what happens when chosen ones rise. It forces exposure. It unmasks who really has substance and who only has noise. They thought the battle would showcase your flaws, but it ended up showcasing theirs. Their desperation to ruin you made them look smaller, weaker, and more insecure than they ever wanted to appear. And your survival, your glow, your steady rise made their poverty of spirit undeniable. They couldn't hide behind titles, influence, or social positions anymore. Their actions spoke louder than their reputations. Now the embarrassment sits heavy on them, because your victory isn't just personal, it's a mirror that reflects their lack. Every blessing that comes your way makes their envy louder. Every win you secure exposes the fact that despite all their collective effort, they couldn't stop you. And that's the real sting. They gave their best shot, and it wasn't enough. All it did was prove that their spirits had nothing of real value in them. Your rise didn't just elevate you. It stripped them of their illusions and revealed the emptiness they've been trying to cover all along. Number 9. Their attacks only made heaven invest more in you. Their attacks only made heaven invest more in you. Every insult, betrayal, and scheme thrown your way didn't chip away at your life. It amplified the protection around you. They thought they were breaking you, but in reality, they were triggering divine reinforcement. Every blow they aimed at you became a signal for heaven to step in, to strengthen what they couldn't touch, and to shield you in ways they couldn't even imagine. Their anger, their plotting, their constant pressure didn't weaken you. It activated the very force that keeps chosen ones untouchable. It's not just about protection in a vague sense, it's strategic, precise, and unstoppable. Every effort to harm you forced doors to open, paths to clear, and resources to appear in your favor. Every word meant to curse you, every rumor meant to tarnish you, only highlighted the divine focus on your life. While they were wasting energy trying to tear you down, heaven was simultaneously reinforcing every aspect of your journey, ensuring that nothing they planned could succeed. Their attacks acted like a magnifying glass on the favor that was already upon you, revealing it to the world in ways that no one could ignore. And the more they tried, the more powerful the reinforcement became. They couldn't see it happening, but every attempt to harm you was like an investment in your destiny. Heaven didn't just protect you, it upgraded your covering, added layers of resilience, and made sure that no scheme could penetrate your purpose. Their intentions to weaken you backfired spectacularly, because every act of hostility only confirmed your significance. Their attempts to shake your foundation became the very reason it solidified, making your position stronger than ever. What they don't realize is that chosen ones are never just shielded, they're reinforced through opposition. Their efforts to harm you aren't neutralized, they're redirected to work for you. That's why, no matter how hard they try, the outcomes never favor them. Every attack they launch is secretly a reinforcement signal for heaven. And while they fume in confusion, you continue to rise, untouchable, fully covered, and more fortified than they could ever have imagined. Their hatred didn't diminish you, it expanded heaven's investment in your life. Number 10. They realize they're now the spectacle, not you. They realize they're now the spectacle, not you. The tables have turned in a way that leaves them stunned. For so long, they pointed fingers, whispered behind your back, and tried to make you the community's joke. Every insult, every scheme, every public attempt to humiliate you was meant to spotlight your flaws. They thought that by making you the center of attention in a negative way, they could control the narrative, dominate perception, and keep you small. But the irony is undeniable. The spotlight shifted, and they became the story everyone is watching. Now, every action they take, every complaint they voice, every attempt to criticize you publicly only exposes their desperation and their failure. They have become living examples of what happens when people oppose someone chosen and protected by heaven. The very energy they spent trying to shame you has ricocheted back, turning them into the spectacle that draws eyes, whispers, and judgment from all around. Instead of you being laughed at or dismissed, they are the ones under scrutiny. Their credibility, their composure, and their authority are now on display, and it's not flattering. Their obsession to control, manipulate, and degrade you has made them predictable. Their every move is being watched, analyzed, and quietly judged by others who can see the contrast between their bitterness and your steady rise. What they once intended as a lesson in your supposed inferiority has flipped entirely. They are now the example of arrogance, envy, and failure. People see clearly who has integrity and who doesn't. They thought they were shaping the narrative, but the narrative has shaped them as a cautionary tale. And while they scramble to save face, your presence continues to speak volumes without effort. You are no longer the target of ridicule or attack. You are the quiet force everyone respects and notices. They are the ones performing in front of the audience, showing the world how opposition to a favored one looks in real life. Every word, every gesture, every desperate attempt to regain control only reinforces the truth. They lost. You rose. They faltered. And now, ironically, they are the lesson, the spectacle, and the example, while you remain untouchable and elevated. Number 11. They witnessed that divine favor breaks logic. They witnessed that divine favor breaks logic. Every plan they carefully orchestrated, every scheme they thought would lead to your downfall, seemed foolproof in their minds. In their thinking, your failures should have matched the magnitude of their attacks. They expected predictable results. Slander would isolate you, betrayal would weaken you, exclusion would keep you small. But what they didn't account for is that favor doesn't follow the rules of human reasoning. What seems impossible to them is routine in the realm of divine orchestration. Instead of falling, you rise. Instead of being blocked, doors open. Instead of being silenced, your influence expands. They watch, baffled, as every move they made to harm you only accelerates your path to success. What should have logically broken you has become the very mechanism through which you advance. Their sense of cause and effect fails because the power behind you doesn't respond to their measurements or expectations. Every attack that should have led to a setback instead triggers growth, protection, and unexpected breakthroughs. This illogical elevation is confusing and humiliating for them because it defies every principle they rely on. They pride themselves on strategy, planning, and social calculation. Yet all of their effort is undone by a force they cannot see or control. What they perceive as chaos is actually divine design, perfectly calculated and perfectly timed. Favor doesn't obey predictability, and it certainly doesn't answer to human schemes. They begin to understand, painfully, that they are powerless to influence the outcomes that are already decreed. And the more they try to rationalize it, the clearer it becomes that favor cannot be explained by logic. You are elevated beyond understanding, promoted beyond merit in their eyes, protected beyond their reach. They watch as the impossible unfolds, every barrier removed, every obstacle redirected, every blessing delivered in ways that defy explanation. Their attempts to predict or manipulate your life reveal only one truth. Divine favor doesn't play by human rules, and when heaven decides to move, no plan of man can stand in its way. What they see is a reality where logic fails, but destiny cannot fail. Number 12. Their hatred exposed their secret admiration. Their hatred exposed their secret admiration. The intensity of their attacks, the way they obsess over every decision you make, every step you take, isn't just spite, it's a reflection of what they secretly recognize in you. If you weren't special, if you weren't marked by favor, they wouldn't expend so much energy trying to take you down. The very fact that they monitor, plot, and gather forces against you reveals the truth they refuse to say out loud. They see something radiant in you that they wish they could claim, mimic, or suppress. This hidden admiration is buried beneath layers of envy, insecurity, and fear. They act like they despise you, but every word, every strategy, every calculated attempt to discredit you is fueled by an acknowledgement they won't admit. Deep down, they know you carry qualities they lack, resilience that cannot be shaken, destiny that cannot be blocked, favor that cannot be duplicated. Their hatred is loud, because admiration is quiet and vulnerable, and they cannot risk exposing it. Instead, they disguise reverence as malice, but it doesn't go unnoticed by heaven, or by anyone perceptive enough to see beyond their facades. What's fascinating is how their obsession continues to confirm your significance. The more they fixate, the clearer it becomes to others that you are someone of value. Their envy, disguised as animosity, becomes proof of your influence, your capability, and your favor. People who watch their behavior see the truth. If they weren't threatened, they wouldn't invest so much effort in opposition. Every campaign to undermine you ends up highlighting the very traits they wish they had. In the end, their hatred backfires. Instead of diminishing you, it becomes evidence of your worth. Every plot, every gossip session, every calculated smear becomes a mirror reflecting your strength, purpose, and the divine favor that surrounds you. What they try to hide, the admiration they dare not voice, shines through in their actions. And while they may never admit it aloud, their energy proves one undeniable fact. You are someone remarkable, chosen, and impossible to ignore. Their hatred doesn't erase your light, it confirms it. Number 13. You became the evidence of a living God. You became the evidence of a living God. For years, people argued, doubted, and speculated about whether God truly intervenes in the lives of his own. They watched injustice, cruelty, and betrayal play out and wondered if heaven ever actually protected anyone. Then you appeared, not just surviving but rising, not just enduring but thriving despite relentless attacks designed to break you. Your life became the living answer to the question that had haunted skeptics. God does defend his own, and his hand moves in ways that humans cannot predict or control. Every trial they threw at you, every scheme designed to humiliate or destroy, only served to highlight the presence of something far greater working through you. People could see the outcomes that made no sense by human standards, doors opening when there was no way, blessings appearing when there should have been defeat, victories emerging from situations that seemed impossible. Your journey became proof that divine reality is active, observable, and undeniable. You didn't have to speak a single word. Your survival, your elevation, your peace in the midst of chaos did all the talking. Even your enemies had to witness it. They could attack, slander, and plot endlessly, yet nothing they tried could remove the favor over your life. Their disbelief and confusion were evidence themselves. They saw things unfold that contradicted everything they thought was logical. Every victory you experienced, every time you overcame what should have defeated you, acted as a living testimony that God's hand was real, that divine intervention wasn't just a story, but a present and active force in the world. And for those who watched from the outside, your life became a reference point. Your rise proved that the same God who protects his chosen ones in history is still at work today. You became the embodiment of faith in motion, a living record that heaven never abandons those it has marked. The skeptics, the doubters, and the oppressors all became unwitting witnesses to a truth they cannot deny. When God chooses, nothing can stop the plan, nothing can reverse the favor, and nothing can erase the evidence. You are that evidence, walking, thriving, and undeniable proof of a living God. Number 14. Their defeat is permanent because it was spiritual, not social. Their defeat is permanent because it was spiritual, not social. They believed they were battling you on a human level through gossip, influence, social maneuvering, and the approval of others. They thought that by controlling perception, twisting narratives, and rallying people against you, they could determine the outcome of your life. They measured power in numbers, reputation, and alliances, never realizing that the real battlefield was beyond what eyes can see and hands can manipulate. Their understanding of victory was limited to the social plane, but the judgment that fell upon them came from a higher authority, one that cannot be swayed, bribed, or outsmarted. The loss they suffered wasn't temporary or reversible. It was set in the spirit. Heaven doesn't operate on the same principles as man, and the decrees made in the spirit are binding. No matter how much they try to rewrite history, influence perception, or repair social standing, the spiritual verdict has already been delivered. They may appear to continue in the world, may gather followers, and may attempt to regain their place in the eyes of the community, but their influence against you has been nullified at the root. The energy they spent trying to harm you has backfired, and their fall from favor in the spiritual realm is irreversible. This permanence is what frustrates them the most. On the outside, they can still move, speak, and act as though they are winning, but the unseen truth is that they have been overruled. Their strategies, alliances, and attacks cannot touch the spiritual reality of your elevation. You are protected, endorsed, and advanced by a power that doesn't negotiate with threats or fear. The battle wasn't about who had more social clout. It was about destiny and divine will. And because it was spiritual, the victory cannot be taken away or diminished. No amount of influence or manipulation in the community can undo what heaven has ordained. Every effort they made to damage you only solidified your place and ensured their own permanent loss. Their defeat is written in a realm beyond human intervention, proving that when God decrees favor, no earthly force can reverse it. Their battle against you was never equal because you were never playing on their level. You were operating on a divine one. And in that realm, their loss is final, absolute, and permanent. In the end, everything they tried, every scheme, every rumor, every act of opposition, only served to reveal what you already were: chosen, favored, and untouchable. Their attacks didn't weaken you, they highlighted your strength. Their envy didn't obscure your light, it confirmed it. Every attempt to harm you became proof of your endurance, evidence of divine favor, and testimony that destiny cannot be stopped. You weren't just surviving, you were ascending, and the higher you rose, the more the world saw what they couldn't destroy. What they thought would be your downfall became their own exposure. They revealed their emptiness, their obsession, and their envy for all to see. They tried to manipulate perception, but perception itself became your platform. Every plan they laid to bury you was transformed into a stage for your elevation, and every move to shame you became a spotlight on your purpose. In trying to defeat you, they only confirmed that you were carrying something far beyond their reach, something orchestrated by heaven itself. This is the reality of being chosen. Favor doesn't follow logic, numbers, or human expectation. It bends circumstances, reverses attacks, and rewrites outcomes in ways the world cannot comprehend. You don't just exist among people. You are a force that reveals truth, exposes weakness, and showcases divine power. Your survival, your rise, and your unstoppable trajectory are living proof that heaven's hand is on you, and no community, no majority, and no scheme can overturn what has been decreed. So stand in the fullness of your victory. Let your life speak louder than their words. Let your rise be the evidence that divine favor is real. And let your unwavering strength remind the world that chosen ones are always marked, always protected, and always destined to prevail. If this message hit you deep, don't just scroll past. Show some love. Hit that subscribe button so you never miss a truth bomb. Smash the like button to back your own rise. Drop a comment to let the world know you see the favor at work. And share this video with someone who needs to witness divine elevation in action. Your support spreads the message, and your story is part of the movement. God bless you.